All right. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome back, barbecue nerds. You're tuned into the Barbecue Nerds podcast, where we geek out over fire, smoke, and everything that makes barbecue the king of cuisines. I'm David, and tonight, March 3rd, 2025, we're filling up a hot one with my co host, the pitmaster with the most swagger, Frank.
With the most swagger.
The most swagger.
Is it because I'm weebling and wobbling and I might fall down? Is that the
I think
swagger?
I think that you turned 50 and you've got your swagger back. That's
Yeah,
what it is.
I'm supposed to be on downhill side now. Should be easier, a lot easier now, is what I heard. I don't know if that's true.
You're half a century old.
Oh my gosh. Sounds even older that way.
With all of these years of knowledge, let's say,
Mhm.
what do you have to present to us tonight in the smoke ring?
Oh man. So we're talking about, I got to pull it up here because I can't remember it. I'm really bad at remembering things because I'm 50 now. I gotta be prompted, you know. We are talking about smokers, rubs, sauces, and the fusion evolution of barbecue. It's going to be a fun show. We're the thing that pops out to me about this more than anything is that barbecue used to be like a regional style thing here and there, and it's not really that way anymore. There's been little nuggets picked from everywhere, and it's like getting thrown in this big melting pot. So that's pretty interesting to think about.
So I'm thinking that tonight we're going to be digging into the heart of barbecue, smokers, rubs, and sauces. We're going to be starting with regional classics. But here's the twist: modern barbecue gone global, blending Texas brisket with Korean gochujang and Carolina pork with
Jeez.
Middle Eastern spices. That's right. We're going full fusion, global classics, things that start with salt and pepper and end with Chinese five spice rub. It's a flavor revolution, and we're here to break it down. So we're going to be talking about gear, ingredients, and how today's pitmasters are remixing history into something new. So grab your tongs, nerds. Let's get into it.
Yeah, man. Good one here from Eric, real quick. Swagger or stagger? I think it was stagger, bro. And El Presidente Dustin is here.
And for
Shout out
those
to him.
that are unaware, El Presidente is Dustin, who owns Smoke Slinger. He is the president of the firm. He's the one that creates, as you can see behind me, for those that are listening on radio, we've got the Liberty 94 over my right shoulder. And over my left shoulder, I've got the full size Smoke Slinger that's a 24 by 48. By the way, tonight's episode is sponsored by Smoke Slinger Pits. Get yours at www.smokeslinger.com. We've got the mini at 24 by 30, the full size Smoke Slinger, which is a 24 by 48, and the all new Liberty 94 offset smoker just launched the 2nd of February 2025. With
Man,
that said, let's get back into our program.
it's just barely been a month too
It's
since
amazing.
since we launched it. It's pretty cool.
It
But
is.
yeah, so I guess we should start talking about the smokers first. Kind of like the evolution of all of that. Of course, Texas barbecue. First thing everybody thinks of is either a brick pit, or they're thinking about like an offset, like a big propane tank offset smoker. Um, those that haven't been around the block or maybe new to this, there's a whole nother style of smoker that is just as old. These big wood-fired rotisseries, like a J&R or an old boiler. If you ever hear somebody talk about that, a couple of those different brands of pits. M&M has their version of it. Those pits are just as old and have been just as instrumental in the inspiration of the flavors and stuff that we have in Texas. You know, you've got
True.
post oak, you got embers in some of those pits. The first thing comes to mind is going to be brisket and beef, like shoulder clawed, sausage made from the trim, stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, I do love a good shoulder clawed, cooked low and slow for hours upon hours, and being able to create that mouthfeel, that texture of pulled beef. I enjoy simple seasonings like your salt, pepper, and garlic, but there does come a time where I do like my hot sauces as well. I know a lot of the hot sauces out there do have a vinegar base, and that's going to bring us to some of those regions that we're going to talk about. Those being most likely the Carolinas, Georgia, Kansas City, traditional Texas barbecue coming from North Texas, Central Texas, West Texas, East Texas, South Texas. Each region in Texas brings its own flair. And let's not forget that we've also gotten there Georgia, and of course your home region out there in the Midwest, Missouri.
Missouri. Well, you know, Missouri is kind of split in two different. I think diagonally from southwest to northeast. The northern section, like the northwest, is of course Kansas City, what we would call it, and you're going to see a lot of vertical brick pits. There was an old timer up there that was building the pits in like Gates and some of those original stores up there, Arthur Bryant's, that kind of thing, and those pits are typically like right behind the counter. There's a door on the front of it, coal bed underneath, embers typically, maybe throwing a split on, and they move meat up and down vertically to hit those temp zones in there. So you do get like a brick pit kind of a feel to that, the original stuff. And then down in the boot heel, what we call the southeast side of Missouri, we're getting more into some rotisserie action. Of course, Old Hickory Pits is from Cape Girardeau. There was the J&Rs and the rotisseries like that. They were using those early on. And talked to David Knight, the guy that still owns Old Hickory Pits. He told me the whole reason he started Old Hickory Pits is because an oiler burned his store down. So at that point, it was like, okay, I'm making these and they're not going to burn stores down, is what he told me. So that's how that all began. So there is definitely like this no man's land in the middle where like there's no style has been defined in Missouri. So it is like the ultimate melting pot, I think. Everybody was trying to pick a side.
So are they? It sounds like they might be closer aligned with Tennessee, where it's just you've got a melting pot of different type of cooking styles all coming together.
Yeah. Like if you go around Memphis, you're going to get more into that vertical style brick pit, but their pits are built different than the ones that were built in Kansas City. They're basically big round bar, like 1 inch round bar. They pitch coal underneath, except these days they just use charcoal and they throw it across the bottom of the pit. Thinking in my mind right now is Tops Barbecue down there, kind of like the baseball cards, but it's barbecue. It's very old chain. We had to fix some of their pits a couple of times, but they're brick flues. They're pitching embers under shoulders, pig shoulders and stuff. But then you get over into the open pits, and then there's also a lot of the backwoods style, like vertical reverse flows. Backwoods was a brand that's down there, like water cookers, and now we're kind of getting down into that Georgia kind of method, like down in there with hog cookers and stuff.
Sure.
So it kind of, there's no real fine line, I don't think, in that definition of regional styles of barbecue as far as the cookers go.
That's very interesting. When I think of cookers, let's just start with Texas. I think of those massive offsets built from old propane tanks, pumping out post oak smoke for that beefy brisket vibe. By the way, we did have a question in here. Let me just get to this one. Coming up this weekend, Saturday, March 8th, 2025, we do have our meetup, spelled MEATUP, in Canton, Texas. That's going to be at, is it Cherry Lane?
Yeah, some park named Cherry something.
Correct. So there was a question that came in here with regards to what we might be serving. and it's from Hojo Barbecue. He's asking, will there be cod on the menu in Canton? The answer is yes. There will
Oh,
be a full shoulder from a steer recently who's met his demise or her demise. And that cod will be cooked up this Saturday. We will be doing that. It looks like we've got another comment coming in here from Trumpet Master 77 Barbecue, who says Rodney Scott's original barbecue sauce is delicious. He's correct. And Dustin McCormick, El Presidente, chiming in, telling us that the name of the park is Cherry Creek Park in Canton, Texas. We would love to see you there this Saturday.
yep. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I cannot wait. The menu just keeps growing every day. We're going to need quite a bit of eaters to show up for this event. Hopefully, we've got some big eaters. We're going to need some portly individuals, let's say,
and some people to help cook, probably.
Yeah.
But hey, getting up into Trumpet's comment there, that kind of bridges us into the sauces and stuff like that.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. So
the regional side of that,
which is very interesting. So when we're talking about regional barbecue, I guess, just getting back to where we were with Kansas City, hands down, their rubs are sweet and bold, brown sugar, paprika, garlic, and the sauce. It's thick, tomato based, molasses heavy. It's like dessert for your ribs. I've got to remember the name of it's a very famous place in Kansas City. I haven't been to it. I've only had the opportunity to try the sauce. The sauce is excellent. When I've done it on ribs, when I've used it beforehand, it almost comes out like a glaze when you allow it to set for a bit on your smoker. And man, the name
from a modern place or an old place?
No, it's an old school barbecue place.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a fancy label. It's written in script. Man, it's downstairs in the basement, and I'm upstairs.
That's probably Arthur Bryant's is written in script.
You got it. It's Arthur
Was
Bryant.
it Arthur Bryant's? Yeah.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that I think out of all the OG places, I've probably had better barbecue at Arthur Bryant's personally. Now there's like Zarda. Zarda is kind of like, for a certain time period, there was like the king of burn ends in at Zarda there. But they all kind of had their start right there with that. But once KCBS got started, and of course Texas barbecue started to like really take off and roll, that brought a vast array of different kinds of sauces and seasonings to the Kansas City area.
Mm-hmm.
With it, Cimarron Docks, that's an OG Kansas City rub. That's basically one of the foundation rubs. Pretty much, there's like these classic rubs that are like the foundation of what everybody is doing today. And usually what it was is a combination of a couple of rubs, like Cimarron Docks and Smoking Guns Hot. Those are both restaurants there in Kansas City. Smoking Guns is a I don't know when they got started. I'm assuming like the 90s, maybe it could have been earlier. But Smoking Guns Hot, like we used that on everything. And then they had gunpowder and we would top with that. But that became a one bite flavor contest is what that became in competition barbecue. But now you've got guys like Chef Jay's, Wolfpack is there. Those guys are bringing the more offset smoker style barbecue into Kansas City. It's not just the old brick pits these days. Of course, Todd Johns from Plowboys. Plowboys is Kansas City as it gets right there. Matter of fact, one of his sauces is called KC Crossroads. That's an area in the Kansas City area.
Talking about Plowboys, I had the opportunity to, just last week as I was cooking, to take the Yardbird rub. And, I'd never noticed beforehand. When I'm thinking Yardbird, I'm always thinking chicken. Right there on the label, it tells you it's good on pork. I ended up using that on that caribou to pork butt. My goodness, what flavor, what great color it puts on the outside. Yeah. Well before it ever hit the smoker. The from all the different ingredients that are in there, it just made the pork this mahogany red. It looked unbelievable. I can't wait for that video to come out. And I did give a preview. I gave just a little bit of a
Yeah.
teaser, but I can't wait for that video to come out and for people to see what that piece of pork came out looking like when it was finished cooking. Just incredible color all around. Congratulations to those guys at Plowboys for selling over 50 tons of Yardbird last year. That's a tremendous amount of seasoning.
That's a lot for sure.
That's a lot of seasoning.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's as far as Kansas City goes, that's kind of what we've got right there. It is a sweet, there's a lot of sugar in it. You know, it's a tomato base sauce typically. There is some molasses, some thickness to the original rubs. Of course, with, like I say, competition coming in, we started to get thinner, more glazy on ribs, stuff like that.
That's very interesting. So I do love that KC sweetness, but how would you contrast that with Texas? Say Central Texas rubs, which are minimalistic. You have your salt, pepper, maybe a hint of cayenne, but sauce, I don't know, it's kind of optional. And when they do give it to you, it's thin and smoky if it's there at all. I think that in my experience of being in Texas, and I know that in the chat room right now, we've got quite a few people from Texas that are chiming in. But is sauce like the no-no in Texas? Is it okay to put it on your if you're a pit master, is it okay to put it on there when you're preparing your food, or is it simply like, you know, an optional condiment for those people that feel they need a sauce?
So it just depends on the pit master, honestly. You gotta, if you're serving barbecue 7 days a week and you're a majority of the day you're trying to have barbecue ready, you're probably going to appeal to the masses. And so it's got to be barbecue for the masses. At that point, we've got to have an array of sauces on the counter or whatever at the table. But now if you're getting down into the guys that are like shooting for the Texas top 50, they're not worried about selling volume. They're more like they're open Thursdays through Saturdays typically, or some, 4 days a week kind of a deal. They're famous for running out, that kind of stuff. Now we're getting into, they'll usually mop or sauce at the pit or on the plate. They're probably not, and I'm thinking back to like my experience at Burnt Bean. I love Ernest's food. He's one of the greatest cooks, in my opinion, in Texas, and which is in Seguin, Texas, if you've ever been there. But best bite of brisket I ever had in my life came from him. I don't know what he does in it, but I do know that, to me, my impression is it was a really great, thin, tomatoey, vinegary sauce that had a little bit of bite on the back end, that was cut with like beef tallow and a little bit of the au jus from the brisket, just like the juice. It was like a blend of that. And he put it on right at the tray before he handed it to me. So it was really, really great. It fit really well with that. Though that's when you're going to get into some really unique situations. But for the most part, yeah, it's if there's sauce present, it's probably going to be something tomato based, thinner, some pepper, a little bit of bite at the back, not overly sweet, not overly hot, in my opinion.
My mouth is watering as you're talking about the natural juices in the beef tallow. I'm thinking about having a French dip right about now.
I mean, it's kind of what I used to do with my competition brisket. I would cut Blues Hog and Head Country 50-50, because Head Country's got that. We were cooking around the border of Oklahoma or Kansas. We had to pull in the Head Country. And so we would blend those two together, and then we would cut that 50-50 with whatever juice we had from the brisket. So it's kind of a play in that realm. It just depends on how thick you want it,
So we've got a question from El Presidente coming in. He wants to know, did mopping exist before saucing? Now that's an excellent question.
I have to be honest, I don't know. I would imagine it does. I would have to consult ChatGPT or the Google to really answer that question.
We're
Honestly.
supposed to be nerds. We're supposed to be nerding out at
I
a
haven't
question.
nerded out on that part
Did,
yet.
This is like, did the chicken come before the egg? Did the mop happen
Yeah.
before the sauce?
I would say probably it would be my guess. If it didn't, I'll be surprised. Let's say it that way.
I'm going to go with you on that one and say that you're correct, because
Yeah.
getting back to the natural juices that are dripping down, you would think that over time, let's go back to medieval times, as a matter of fact, as they're roasting an entire carcass of an animal. All those juices dripping down, I'm sure, were then put back onto the animal as it's basting. So that in itself wouldn't be a saucing; that would be more of a mopping. I'm going with that one. I'm mop.
Yeah, I think so
And
too.
so Trumpet Master's chiming in saying that Sucklebuster's peach glaze is amazing, and that sauce is all good in Texas, but mostly on the side. It is considered to be a condiment.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, if you watch like the Goldies videos when they go in there and they're working the ribs, whatever, and they got that cool squirt gun bottle that's got the 3 little tips on it, for going in there. I can't remember what they call that sauce. I think Ant's Barbecue Cookout and somebody else, Chud, I know, has talked about it. Somebody else talked about it too. What's in that sauce? I know that Anthony did it, so might go check his channel out to see what's in there. But it's super wet, super thin. Spray it on, rock and roll on ribs.
I do love ribs. I've ever since this this craze now of salt and pepper ribs, which I'm going to go back to saying that that's a Texas thing. I really like the dry rubs. I'm not a big fan of the sticky ribs. Growing up, my dad would do, when he did ribs, it was heavy with garlic and a KC Masterpiece. I remember that one. Back to Kansas City again. But my palate has changed, and I tend to just like that dry seasoning. And if I'm going to put anything on there, you're right. It's a sauce that's been cut. It's a thinner sauce. It's more watery than it is something that's viscous, like a ketchup based.
Yeah, you don't want it to be overpowering, is the thing.
No.
You want to taste the meat. That's the thing, is you want to get in there and taste that, whatever that, you want the beef to come out, of whatever it is, if you're cooking beef. Now, as far as other regions of sauces, we can't forget the Carolinas when we get into the mustard and the vinegar realm of sauces. Ooh. And I will say that a good mustard sauce is one of my top 10 favorites for sure. And I really like a red pepper vinegar kind of a sauce as well, like a finishing sauce on pork. Can't beat those. As a matter of fact, I think that's a lot of what, like when you see these guys taking the hog and they're chopping it all up.
Yep.
They'll douse inside that hog with that vinegar finishing sauce. And I remember the first recipe that I got for that was on, it was actually Tulsa Jeff is who I got it from in an email when you signed up for Smoking Meat Forums back in the day. That was where he was sending out those emails periodically if you signed up for that. But I got a recipe for that one time, and it's great. I love it. But the mustard sauce, a good mustard sauce, Carolina Gold mustard sauce is what I think I really do enjoy. But then if you want to go even farther south, Big Bob Gibson's and Chris Lilly, they came up with that white barbecue sauce, Alabama white sauce. I can't forget about that. I love that too. Horseradish, mayo, the whole bit, pepper.
I'm a big fan of horseradish. And now you're really building this French dip for me, because now I've got the au jus and I've got some horseradish on the side to put onto this thing. You're building me the perfect sandwich tonight.
Cool.
So we went to South Carolina, which is great. I do love that Carolina Gold. We got ourselves out there to the Alabama white sauce. But I think if we got to North Carolina, being that we were just talking about that pig, now we're back to that to Rodney Scott. We're back to the Sam Jones barbecue, such as like Eastern North Carolina, where it's all vinegar and pepper. There's no rub. It's just a sauce that cuts through the fat of a whole hog.
Yeah.
whereas Western North Carolina adds a touch of tomato for that Lexington style dip. Uh,
Yeah.
I I've always liked that the version that Sam Jones does. It's just something very traditional, not only about the way that he makes the hog, but how you go back 2 generations, even 3 generations of his family, and they stuck to their guns with just vinegar and pepper. That's all you put on. And he doesn't
Yeah.
season it that way. He puts the seasoning on the side for you.
Yeah. Well, and then you're getting into that Eastern Tennessee up into the Carolinas. You're talking
Hmm.
about that tomato, and that's where Blues Hog Tennessee Red kind of has its roots. Whereas if you get over into Memphis area, that's where the original Blues Hog barbecue sauce came, where Bill Arnold came up with that, which is a lot thicker. It's like molasses coming out of that jar. I remember early on it was a glass mason jar, and I just bought it because it was in a mason jar. That's the whole reason I bought that. I never heard the name before. Is in the local grocery store, and I tell you, the first time we had it, we were just like, "This is the best thing we've ever had in our lives," and we've just stayed with that. But there's a few blends of that you can do, like I mentioned earlier, blended Blues Hog with the Head Country sauce for that kind of more bold, beefy. It really goes well on beef if you're in the competition circuit anyway, as we used to do. But then head over to the pork side of the arena. Now you're mixing Blues Hog Original with Tennessee Red, and I think that's what they call the Champions blend.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. When I thought of Champions Blend, I thought that was because it was award winning. They were the champions.
No, it's the blend of the two sauces.
Okay.
And then now on the competition trail, they're starting to add maple syrup and everything else to that stuff. I mean, it like this glass jar maple syrup that they're pouring on when they wrap ribs or pork. My buddy Del Fort showed that to me. That's what he does.
That's
So you
very
just can't
interesting
get
stuff.
sweet enough and thick enough, it sounds, these days on pork, which is kind of getting us up into that, just the different blends and things that people come up with, mixing different sauces. Have you played with that at all?
I've experimented with different sauces. I've been one to buy a commercial sauce and then I'll put my own tricked out ingredients into it. I You hear people say this all the time. Things like Sweet Baby Ray's, things like Blues Hogs. This is the base to whatever they're then going to make their sauce out of. And that way, there's that consistency all the time that you know what that base is. It already has that sweetness, that tanginess, and then maybe you want a little bit more heat, or maybe you want a little bit more saltiness, or the word these days is umami. You want that umami
Umami,
feel. Correct. But
mushrooms.
what I'm gaining from this is that every region has got its own signature. It's like a barbecue fingerprint. It's tied to the land. It's the wood and the people. Um, Going back to Kansas City, they're known for their burnt ends. That's
Mhm.
a signature Kansas City item. Whereas Texas is going to be that brisket. That's what we think of. We think of the Carolinas. We think of pork. We think of pigs. So each one is very unique, and the type of flavors and profiles and seasonings that we use are significant to the type of barbecue that we're going to serve from that region. And of course, as we mentioned earlier, is the fusion is taking a little bit of different flavor from different places.
Yeah.
Texas right now notorious for a lot of the Mexican influence, hence Tex-Mex. What we're seeing now, a lot of popularity coming in with that live fire Argentinian type of cooking that is starting to be seen more often now in Texas. South
Yeah.
Texas again has more of that Mexican type of flavor, whereas our central and northern Texas still sticking to their guns with salt, pepper, and garlic. Even though they don't
Yeah.
want to talk about the garlic, everyone goes, no, 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 no. It's just kosher salt and black pepper. Right. Till we look at it, and then suddenly there's some sumac
Lowry's.
in that. There's Lowry seasoning salt. There's sugar. There's all
Yeah.
these other things that no one wants to talk about. It goes back to the wine industry. You look at a bottle, it says Cabernet Sauvignon. As long as it's 85% Cabernet grape, the other 15%, no one has to talk about. It's the same thing here. 85% of it might just be salt and pepper, but that 15% is what really tricks it out and makes that person's rub, that person's barbecue, just that much more different than the neighbor across the street who's also making barbecue. And of course, the woods and the pit, and the pit master has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, at least 50%, right?
At least, correct.
See, we got any questions in here we can answer real quick in the comments? I like it. Comments are just rolling right now.
Well, Trumpet Master is very favorable of the Rodney Scott sauce. He says it's friggin' banging. He uses it as salad dressing, and then get this one. Hojo doubles down with them and wants to know, could you use this for a Bloody Mary? That's a great question. Trumpet, that one's on you. We're waiting on the reply. Have you put that into your Sunday Bloody Mary? Or have you tried that in any other type of adult beverage?
Well, on the Bloody Mary topic, I've never liked them. However, I know that whenever we're doing the turn-ins and stuff like that, fortunately, there's always somebody around that on my team or who I'm cooking around that is good at it. And so they'll make the Bloody Mary. But what we wind up doing is just shoving sticks in there that's got like everything you can think of on it. Maybe wrapped in maybe like some ABTs. We put those in one time. Take one of those long skewer-looking toothpick things and put a bunch of burnt ends on it. Shove it in there. You know, you garnish it up. Have you seen the really meaty ones like that?
I have. Yes.
Yeah, they look crazy. Of course, for Sunday morning, I don't know, but
the Bloody Mary has gotten so carried away that you have this small glass that looks like a vase with everything else coming out of it that looks like a bouquet.
Yeah. At that case, you almost got to put something on it. You got to sweeten that thing up because aren't they spicy? The ones I've always had were really spicy, and that's what turned me off.
I love a very, very spicy Bloody Mary. I love the pepper in there, the Tabasco that's in that, the tomato juice. As a kid, I was never like people would drink V8. The thing was V8, keep your body straight. Never liked V8 and never liked tomato juice. Now, as an adult, I look forward to having a Sunday Bloody Mary. My palate is evolving.
Yep. Daniel Perez is getting his smoke slinger.
Congratulations.
This week, it says. Let's see. Going through here, just reading. Shout out to David and Beth. Glad they're here. He says it's Speedo weather down there in Florida. Shoot. You know, that's another thing about Texas, at least on the competition circuit. There was a whole host of pepper jellies that came out that were being used. Craig Sherry is one of them. He made his Texas pepper jelly. There's someone else, Sucklebusters is what Trumpet mentioned. There was some others I'm thinking of right now. Well, here's one I never heard of. Trumpet Master brought up this Gabrick barbecue. Candy jalapeno. Have you messed with pepper jelly much?
I haven't, but candied jalapeno sounds delicious right about now.
Dude, pepper jelly is a whole nother level. I love pepper jelly. Like, love it. A little cream cheese on a cracker and some pepper jelly, jalapeno. It'll set you right straight. There you go. Going through, looking here real quick. Keep it G-rated, please. Juices dripping down. That was Speedo Man again there. What else we got? Anything else in there that you see?
Well, I see that Trumpet's very active tonight. He's letting us know that Bloody Mary to him equals a heartburn, whereas DeMoose loves a good Sunday Bloody Mary. Ooh, Daniel Perez asking about injections because we haven't touched upon injections. We're dealing with the exterior with rubs and with sauces. But we never did get into an injection, so I want to thank him for bringing that up. And I'm expecting that we get some type of content from him moving forward now that he's got a smoke slinger on the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I expect nothing but content from everyone.
So on the injection scene, there's probably somebody that's in the comments here or listening to the show that has been doing it longer than me. So I yield before I say anything. I yield to their experience, and I'm perfectly okay with being corrected. However, from my experience, Fab was the OG injection, Fab powder, and Leanne Whippen, it was, I believe, her dad, I think, was Fab. And the Fab powder injection came around on the competition circuit. You mixed it up. It had phosphates in it. It had the other seasonings and things like that. And that hyper injected moisture into the fibers of the meat. Before that, I don't really know if there was legit injections around, but the grandfather to all the injections is brining and curing. So it accomplishes a similar feat, but injection is like for the guys that are in a hurry that want to just like, they want it to brine in the fridge overnight without making a bunch of brine. So they're just going to inject all these ingredients down inside. So while coarse grains like salt, pepper, things like that they'll get stuck in the needle. So you have to almost emulsify that stuff and get it down into the water. Then you can inject all that stuff down in there and get some action going. After that, other people came on the scene. Not really sure who was the first one to say I got one too, but I do know that there's Butchers, Cosmo's got his. There's a lot of different powdered injections, but then we can't forget the Cajun buttered garlic guy. What was that guy?
Tony C.
Cajun injector guy.
Well, you got Hojo right here. He brought it up. Tony C's Cajun butter is a good injection for pulled pork. Is that what you're talking about? I know this stuff. I know all about this Tony C Cajun butter.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So that's different.
Okay.
Before that was Fab, I'm pretty sure. But Fab came in a powder. It was either a jar, a plastic jar, or a bag, a Ziploc bag. I actually have some upstairs right now, but Butchers, those are like competition barbecue kind of injections. What you'll see guys using these chops injectors. Dan, we call him Dan U-Haul. Dan Udahl up in Kansas City is Chops Barbecue, and he's the guy that made the bug sprayer with the machined head that got FDA approved, that you could do 4 needles at once and you could inject your hog all the way down the hams and all up and down. Then he made battery powered ones with pumps and stuff. Crazy. That's a whole nother crazy end of barbecue right there.
Oh, will we have this battery injector available for Saturday in the event that they just no?
Well, I've had multiple.
If there's a whole hog there Saturday, which I'm not going to say whether or not there is or isn't, let's just say there is one. Who's injecting this hog if we decide to go on one half? No.
For the guys listening on the audio version, Frank just set his beer down, took his finger and put it on his nose to say, not it. And it was his right index finger is the one that you got to use for that, not it. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I'm just, as we go back 2 episodes ago, and we had mentioned just how excited David is and does things over the top. One of the talks that came up was with this whole hog. Do we split it in half symmetrically, or are we cutting it into 4 portions? If we split it in half, we could do half where we do an injection and a mopping, and then half where we're doing a rub or just salt. There's all these ideas. I only bring this up because when I wanted to get one of these injectors, I was told to just go to a veterinary store to get this injector for a horse, rather than spending money on an injector that someone says is for the barbecue industry.
It's battery powered.
I need this. I hook it up to a car battery. We're going to need all night power.
Yeah. So if you go to most barbecue stores, like specialty stores, you'll see them in there. It's called Chops Power Injector. They're usually the half gallon or the full gallon pump up sprayer.
Hmm.
And he's got a little acrylic, some kind of food grade acrylic machined head that accepts the screw in needles. And yeah, you get to inject 4 places at once that way. So, but there cannot be any granules in it. It would be a bad deal because you'd plug up them needles and it ain't gonna work.
That's true.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the injection thing, I'm not really sure where it started except competition barbecue. That like needles into meat. There's a lot of things that started in competition barbecue that nobody knew anything about competition barbecue, but guys like the what was that guy we talked about, Cajun injector guy?
Oh, Tony
He
C.
made him that special little cooker thing, and remember he went on the TV on QVC and
Yep.
infomercials, and he was selling that thing. Yeah,
I've used that Tony C. Cajun butter on turkeys that we deep fried.
yeah,
I've used that on pork butts. I've used that on, oh my God, so many different, they have different flavors too. I remember
hmm
we injected an entire bone-in ribeye. I don't know why we did this. It's just one of the things that we decided to do one day. We injected the entire bone-in ribeye with the Blues Hog bold and beefy, big and beefy. Yeah, that one. Along with, boy, we really got crazy with this. We also used better than bouillon beef. That you just add hot water to that, so that thinned it down. And then somehow one of the other Cajun, Tony C. Cajun items that he has was in that too. I mean, it was about as close to a competition bite as you're going to get because of how much we injected it and then all the seasoning on the outside. So you get that good crust on that prime rib as well.
yeah, yeah. Cool stuff. Yeah, I'm not really sure where that comes from regionally though, other than competition barbecue. So,
I agree with you. I don't think that there's a region necessarily.
hmm
It's just another way of being able to get as much flavor into the meat as possible. So as it's cooking over a long period of time, not only does it not dry out, which it shouldn't do anyway, but it continues to retain that flavor. You
hmm
hear people do this all the time that they use apple juice on their
yeah,
pork. Yeah, so there's those that make their own spice blend with apple juice or apple cider vinegar,
hmm
and then they inject the pork. Usually it's a pork loin because it doesn't have the same content of fat. So they try to load it up with as much humidity as possible. But I have to think that if you're using apple cider vinegar, that item is going to retain a good amount of tang to it.
yeah, yep, for sure, for sure. So now we got to pivot and we got to get over to the fusion evolution of barbecue.
This is my favorite topic. I love this.
The first thing I think about, and I don't know who's first that ever did it, but the one thing I think about very quickly that comes to mind is a restaurant up in Kansas City called Buck Tooey. Shout out to those guys. I wouldn't be able to, like, off the top of my head tell you much about it. I haven't eaten there yet, but I know a lot of people that have, and they're pulling together those Asian, Korean kind of flavors and mixing that in with barbecue. It's like their claim to fame. I don't know
Mhm.
if you know of any like that, any fusion places.
There's so many places that combine ethnic seasonings and foods from around the world into one plate, and it's not just limited to barbecue. So we'll see like a lot of the different masala curries that come in from India that are combined with coconut milk that's native to, say, Thailand, and
Mhm.
then that'll be infused with like a Kona coffee rub that you'll find coming out of Kona, Hawaii.
Yeah.
So there's so many flavors that are combined together. So for example, you could take your Kansas City burnt ends and then toss them in that gochujang Korean barbecue sauce, and then mix in a little bit of the red chili paste. So that way you get a nice sweet, spicy, smoky flavor, and it takes that meat to a whole nother level when you bite into that tender, delicious, juicy burnt end.
Oh yeah. Well, burn ends, the whole purpose of burn ends is to get that char, to get that the bark and the char and the flavor, and then you're actually setting that glaze and
Hmm.
not burning it really, but caramelizing that glaze on there. That's the whole point of burn ends. And then you get into the same thing with pork belly burn ends. I was actually going to do some with jowl the other day just because I had
Hmm.
a chunk of it. I didn't have time, but yeah, you're starting to get into some cool stuff there. So as far as fusion though, it's not just limited to bringing like Oriental flavors and stuff like that. We're talking about Mexican flavors coming in,
Correct.
or some of the other flavors like that Argentina, like an Argentinian. Well, Al Fragoni, he told me a little bit about it, is that most of the people that migrated to Argentina around the end of the war, you were given two choices: you're going to New York or you're going to Buenos Aires. And so most of the people from Europe that migrated out, it was a 50-50 shot, they're probably going to pick Argentina or New York. And so you wind up with all these cultures that went to Argentina, and then all of that in turn impacted the cuisines and stuff like that. Like chimichurri was actually like curry. It was gimme curry is what the story is that I heard about that. So, but they wound up calling it chimichurri, and it's all their little blend of herbs that they use down there in Argentina. So you get a lot of Italian down there, some German. You got a lot of crazy stuff that's all kind of blended together. And here we are doing that in our barbecue. Sausage. There's a million different kinds of sausage being made.
Don't forget about the tacos, man. Barbecue's gone full Tex
I
Mex.
knew tacos was coming.
Brisket barbacoa with salsa verde, or pulled pork with a mole drizzle. It's like that pit and that taqueria had a baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's so many different items in tacos now. On these trips
Mm-hmm.
that I've taken with you, and we're down there in Texas and elsewhere, we tend to find our way to taco joints quite often for
That's
breakfast,
all there is
lunch,
down there.
dinner.
There ain't no Texas barbecue in Texas. I swear. I bet Mexican restaurants has got that outnumbered like probably 30 or 40 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
They're everywhere. Like they're even in places you don't expect them, little houses that are Mexican restaurants. But I like tacos. So you're right. I'm wrong. There are a lot of barbecue places in Texas, but it does seem like the little Mexican places pop out everywhere. And
Yeah.
you got to try them.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, tacos is correct. Tell me I'm wrong. Tomorrow's
No.
Tuesdays. Tacos.
What's nice about a taco, or what are those other things that I love? Oh my God! Now I can't feel it. It slipped my mind. It's not an empanada. Well, even empanadas now have
Empanadas.
so many varieties of
Yeah.
ingredients on the inside.
Yeah. It's just stuff it with everything, anything.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Really cool. Another fusion element is shotgun shells. Have you heard of those? That's the
Oh,
big
definitely.
giant manicotti that are filled with all kinds of barbecue related things and then wrapped
Yes.
in bacon and smoked. The fatty, the OG fatties is where we would make like breakfast and roll it up inside of a fatty which is just sausage that's rolled out flat. And then we would roll it up in look just like the Chubba sausage that you get in the little casing, wrap that in bacon and smoke it. Well, shoot, we done apple pie. We done inside of those. We've done so many things inside of Italian pizza, inside of these fatties. That's another fusion dish that you see around.
What about? I know it sounds kind of odd, but what about taking pork and putting a Middle Eastern twist on it? Say with
Mhm.
like, there's so many like
That sounds
za'atar
wrong,
rubs or the
but
harissa spiked vinegar sauces, something that gives
yeah,
an earthy, crusty kick with smoky pork. And I know that, when we're thinking Middle Eastern, suddenly we start to think of like halal foods, things that have to
yeah,
be non-pork. But
yeah.
there's so many great seasonings that come out of the Middle East that
Mhm.
utilized properly the flavors are just outstanding. You think about your kebabs, for example, your chicken kebabs, your beef kebabs, all of that. That's a barbecue item, is it not? You know, you're putting it
Sure.
over a charcoal or an
Grill.
open flame. It's a grill. Or the
Yep.
adobo ovens that are used.
Mm-hmm. Here's your Middle Eastern flavor profile. Explain to me a Middle Eastern profile, because I've not really been around it much.
So there's a lot of here's where like it differentiates. When people think Middle Eastern, I don't know why this happens all the time. They start to think Greek food. They start to think of that yogurt cucumber sauce. But when we're really looking at Middle Eastern, it comes down to a lot of these different dry seasonings that you then add an oil to or a wine to make it into a paste. So you could do your dry rub on the outside if you chose to, but it's better when it's made into a paste. And then that paste, similar to like what you did with the chicken or the turkey a while back, where you took the Alfregoni chimichurri rub and you put it underneath the skin. You could do just the same with a lot of your Middle Eastern rubs, where you're coating the outside of the chicken or you're infusing it on that lamb shoulder, just like Hojo was mentioning here, that he does a Middle Eastern flavor profile on pulled lamb shoulder. So you can take the whole shoulder clod, and rub that down with olive oil, a little lemon juice, and then put your dry rub onto it so it becomes a little more pasty. Not to mention you also have the moisture that's going to be pulled out of the lamb. That's all that fat and that grease that's dripping down. It makes for an excellent flavor profile. It tends to be a bit smoky. There are some other Middle Eastern ingredients that are used that have, I'm going to say, more of like a sweeter smell. You might be familiar with this on rice pilafs. They tend to use some of these Middle Eastern spices. And Trumpet Master saying that Indian food smells amazing. That gets us into our masalas, curries again. That gets us into our vindaloo. That gets us into like the buttered chicken, things like that. In fact, you'll find that for people who don't want to use tallow when they're cooking, they will go over to ghee, which is a clarified butter, rather than the animal fats that you'll get from your lards and from your tallows.
Wow.
And here's Trumpet Master going in with tzatziki sauce, the best way that he spelled it. And that tzatziki sauce is that Greek yogurt that's combined with some other seasonings. And most people see it as that cucumber sauce that's on the side for their Greek salad at the diner.
Gyros.
Yes, that's correct, for the gyros. Their
Gyros.
souvlaki platter.
Mm-hmm.
And hummus
What's
and baba ganoush is well appreciated. Baba ganoush, you take an eggplant and you roast it. So let's go back to just what, standard charcoal barbecue instead of one of our big boy smokers that I have over my shoulder here. So you take that eggplant and you roast it live fire, and it gets very mushy. It gets a smoky flavor and profile to it, and then you can take it and put it into your immersion blender, or if you're really good, you chop it up finely and you just keep mashing it till again it's like a paste. I don't remember all the seasoning. If Hojo wants to jump in and let us know what are the seasonings in baba ganoush, it'll really help right about now. But that's what it is. It's eggplant based. And hummus is your chickpeas. Chickpeas and tahina. You take the chickpeas and those get mashed up. Add in some tahina, little olive oil, some garlic. Mix that around, and you've got
tahine. That's Mexican.
Tahina. No, not tahine. You're thinking tahine, which is a spice that has that
lime
lemon flavor. No, this is tahina, which is another type of pasty type of substance that's added in order to make your hummus. There's nothing quite like homemade hummus.
You don't put it on the rim of a margarita glass.
I put tahini on the end of my. I maybe in some of the countries closer to the Middle East.
Maybe they do.
Maybe out there, you never know.
Fusion.
If you've ever watched the Adam Sandler movie, Don't Mess with the Zohan, you put hummus on everything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And so we haven't saying that we're saying tahine wrong. It's tajin. It's
Tajin. I can
tajin.
that way. That feels better. Tajin.
It's
Tajin.
tajin.
LOL.
Yeah, it goes with your chicken fajitas and your quesadillas.
Quesadillas.
And or you put it right there in your Bloody Mary. That one I
Goodness.
could go for. There's no, that definitely deserves to be on the rim of a Bloody Mary.
Which one?
Tajin.
Oh yeah. I thought you were saying the other stuff. What is the other
The
stuff?
hummus? Oh, you're talking about the tahina?
Tahina.
Tahina. Yeah, that would be a very interesting type of margarita. You'd have a ring around your face of hummus. Instead of using a napkin, someone will just come over with a pita and just like, wipe it off your
Wipe
face.
it off.
That's it.
Goodness.
Here it is. Hojo has saved the day, jumped in. Here we go. So baba ganoush is eggplant, tahini paste, garlic, lemon juice, and olive oil. Simple stuff. Great stuff coming out of the Middle East. He's right. I love all those little dips and spreads. Being in Brooklyn with like my Israeli friends over there and the Russians, let's just say all the Middle Eastern and Eastern European people, they loved all these different dips before we got involved with all the wines and all the vodkas that would go along with it. They weren't big beer drinkers. They were big vodka and wine drinkers.
Huh. Interesting. Yes,
so maybe you're right. Maybe you're onto something here, that we have martinis with a tahini rim, or a piece of eggplant that's on the toothpick that's in there. Instead
Sounds
of a
like you're
dirty
gonna need a
martini with
napkin.
olive juice, it's a dirty martini with hummus. Getting a little crazy.
You are getting crazy.
That's quite the fusion.
Oh, Zavala, Joey Zavala. What are we saying here? Hojo just dropped
Get
him.
that up there. Well, I'm clicking and
I
you're
think
clicking at the same time.
Cheesy jalapeno hominy. Boy, that does sound good. It's quite a guy right there, the Zavala. It's awesome. Too much fusion. Trumpet says at some point you got to be careful with too much fusion. Could get the yeah, it could turn out badly for you if you're listening on the podcast.
Oh,
yeah, mess up the weekend.
it's a quick weight loss remedy.
I guess so. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't know that I could deal with all them foreign things. But I do really enjoy anything you put on a tortilla, taco wise, that's barbecue. I've had some really great stuff. I do enjoy the Korean side of stuff sometimes. Just depends on what it is. As far as like other kinds of fusion is when we start blending traditional regional barbecue and you start combining those things. Like if you take a pastrami, I don't know if you ever did this or not, but this is one of my favorite things. There was a guy up here in St. Louis that his name's Ben Welch. He made some of the best freaking pastrami I ever had in my life. He also had a homemade white sauce he made. And he put that horseradishy white sauce on that pastrami. Son, let me tell you, it was the deal. It was really, really, really good. He's got a different store now. He's not doing that no more. But that's fusion. You're taking some horseradishy stuff and putting it with some pastrami, Alabama white sauce, and you're putting it on a pastrami. Which pastrami is what? Where's that from?
Pastrami is an Eastern European
Old world.
food. Yeah, that's old world Eastern European. Like you take a brisket and you can brine it, and that becomes your corned beef. Or you take the same piece of meat after it's brined, extract a good amount of that salt brine, and then pepper it on the outside. The only difference is with your with your corned beef, it's going to be smoked and then steamed, whereas your pastrami is going to be smoked and then usually it's wrapped in some towels and then cooked for a while that way, so it retains all its moisture. and you make sure you have a really good black pepper bark on the outside.
Absolutely. Yes, that's what he had. He had that. Yeah.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You
It
know,
looks like we've got the Susses jumping in again.
I figured you were going to pinpoint that one. I didn't get no free plane ticket. I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh, we're getting them. I think that was part of the deal. That, and we have to solve the Middle East crisis.
Yeah, yeah. But the horseradish stuff. So how hot do you like your horseradish? Do you want it to clear your nostrils the first bite? Like when you
Yes.
bite in, you're like, oh man, that's a lot. And then
I
you
love
move forward.
I love all radishes. I eat them like you're eating a carrot, or you're eating, say, for example, like even like the standard red radish that we find everywhere. I just pop them right in and eat them. So if it's horseradish, now I'm gonna eat it like a carrot. I just bite right into it. I love the texture, I love the consistency, and I love the spice. The hotter, the better.
Yeah,
I love that
I'm
stuff.
not quite there, but
No.
I do like a really good hot horseradish, like prepared horseradish kind of deal. I'm not the guy that's going to bite into the root or whatever. I'm not that guy. Sounds like you are.
Its medicinal properties are great for detoxifying
Sure.
the liver. Great for the liver.
Sure. Everything wants out. You bite into that thing, everything wants out.
You know, that's it. It's a good flush.
But yeah, good creamy horseradish though. I really do enjoy on beef. Yeah, for sure. Something that's not going to just burn my eye sockets.
So if, let's say you're making a prime rib, and people tend to put horseradish. It's interesting, but they put horseradish on the outside of their prime rib before they put on all of their other seasonings. In fact, here's Trumpet Masters mentioning right here, they uses it as a binder. So
Yeah.
I'm curious, like when you're doing that and you're talking about making it creamy, are you taking that horseradish that's ground up in a jar and then adding your own mayonnaise or other concoction to it? Or do you buy it as or already made?
Already made.
Already made. Okay.
Typically. But I will say that homemade is always better no matter what. I just never made it personally. Sybil, my friends in St. James, at Sybil's, if you ever make it to St. James, Missouri, you got to check out Sybil's restaurant down there. 5 stars, white table, white napkin, raised pinkies, the whole bit. They do make their own homemade, creamy horseradish in there. That is the deal. You can't have beef without it. Like it's a rule in there. But yeah, I do enjoy a prepared horseradish straight. Which I think prepared is just mooshed, is what it is. I don't know that they do anything else to it. I think it's just like cleaned up, smashed down, and then you would take that and blend it in with whatever goes in the creamy horseradish. I don't know this. I've never made it, never read the ingredients on the bottle, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it appears to me that it is like something like sour cream, maybe, or mayo. I don't know. You tell me. I've never read the ingredients, but
I
it's
think
creamy.
Yeah.
It's not as hot, and it is amazing. Yeah.
I don't think that they're using sour cream. That's to me, that sounds more like a baked potato.
Potato?
Yeah, like mayonnaise, you think of Duke's mayonnaise, it's got twang. It's a great binder on the outside of chicken. I'm sure it'd be a great binder combined with horseradish to put on the outside of other types of proteins, other types of beef proteins, let's say. And of course, if you go to a restaurant, you get a slice of prime rib. Always on the side is a little bit of horseradish that they provide and a juice.
Yep.
So that's pretty standard.
Yep. Well, what are we missing? Let me read the title again to make sure we're on track. Are we on track? The title of the podcast episode is Smokers, Rubs, Sauces, and the Fusion Evolution of Barbecue. I think we're on track. We did a pretty good job, huh?
We did, but Frank, this is the point where we truly nerd out. Let's call this the bonus round.
Okay, bonus round.
All right,
Let's go.
here you go. I want you to nerd out on this one. How do we combine a fusion barbecue plate? Pick a smoker, a rub, a sauce, and a twist. Put those together.
A smoker. So a style of smoker?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm probably going to go open fire. Does that count?
That's fine.
Okay. I don't know. I'm just making this up. I haven't thought this out at all. You can tell because my response. Because I'm taking a long time and saying a lot because I haven't thought through it all. Okay, so I'm gonna scratch the open fire. I'm gonna go direct heat cooker. I'm going to. What if I do the same thing that we did yesterday? Actually, we took iron skillet. We made us a chicken pot pie in the iron skillet. Does that count? So I got veggies. I got crust of a pie. That's not good enough, is it?
That's not enough.
Cheese,
No.
potatoes. By the way, shout out to my little brother Nick. He knocked it out of the park on that. It's really, really good. Okay, him and his wife Jackie did a great job. Anyway, okay, so direct heat cooker. I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take a. You said pick a smoker rub sauce. Oh, you didn't say a meat. Rub sauce fusion twist.
Right. So you're going to pick a smoker or rub sauce and pick whatever meat you want or any veggie or eggs, whatever you like, and then add a twist to it.
Okay. All right. So we're going to do a smoker is going to be the direct heat smoker from Smoke Slinger. I have to say that because they sponsored the podcast. I'm going to beat you to it. I'm going to do Plowboys and I'm going to do a sauce that's unique, horseradish, and ostrich. I don't know.
Ooh, ostrich.
Yeah. So ostrich is supposed to be as close to beef as you can get in a poultry. What you doing?
So
because I've never cooked ostrich and I'm interested.
I'm going with a full, I think it's a 7-bone or 8-bone full rack of beef ribs. And I'm not talking about what's left over after you cut it off of the prime rib. No, I'm going the full rack. You're like the each one is like 8 inches in length type of full rib. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Taking
Fred
that.
Flintstone.
Fred Flintstone, but the full rack Fred Flintstone.
The thing that tipped over the rock wheel car.
That's exactly it. Just like the ribs that tipped over the car in the Flintstones. So I'm going with that. I'm probably putting on. I'm going to go with I'm going with soy sauce on the outside to build up my salt. Then I'm probably going to layer this with some of that sumac, salt, pepper. Ooh, maybe some smoked paprika.
Sumac, like the poisonous weed in my yard?
Just like that one. Yes. Just a pinch to, for a little tartness. No, it's SUMAC. Sumac, SUMAC. I don't think that's what you have growing in your yard.
Sumac. It's a invasive species.
It's also a spice. I hope I hope they're two different things. Or else I'm coming to your house to dry this out.
Dude, I got to burn it. Go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted your brain.
No, it's fine. So I'm going. So we've got my dry rub on there. I've got a little bit of the soy that's underneath, and then I'm pretty sure I'm putting this whole thing on the smoke slinger, and I'm going to go low and slow on there to the point where when it's ready, I can just pull the bone completely out, and now I've got a full boneless rack of ribs. The sauce that I'm going to do this with, tough because I'm not a big sauce person. So I'm thinking something tamarind because I've got that little bit of Asian flavor. So I'm probably going to go with a tamarind sauce, more like a Vietnamese style, Thai Vietnamese style with the tamarind sauce or a hoisin sauce. And then I'm going to pair that up in a soft taco shell. Ooh, there you go.
You
With
went
some
full
shredded
circle.
with some shredded veggies. So I fused that whole thing together. So now you've got this beautiful masa type of corn tortilla, hot and fresh. Let's lay it in there with that boneless rib, and then we're going to top that off with some tamarind and some nice finely shaved up celery or bok choy, some other type of carrots, things like that, and roll that up.
Okay, so real quick, I have to
Go ahead.
tell the people that are from Missouri that are saying sumac, like me, there's two kinds of sumac. Just so you know, I asked the Google on my phone, are there two types of sumac? And it says yes. One of the first giveaways is that poison sumac has white berries, while non-poisonous sumac has red berries. I'm still not going to trust the berries on the plant in my yard or in my woods. So buy it. You can find it on the Google in the shopping tab, and it is around $5.99 a bottle. There you go for ground sumac. That's safe to eat.
Cheap.
Because if you get hurt, you can sue the guy that made it instead of taking the risk yourself. Anyway, getting back onto this, I'm going to go fusion again. I'm going to take a full slab of spares, spare ribs, pork spare ribs. And I'm going to get that little bottle of red chili sauce that's got the panda on it. And I'm going to go there with that. Salt and pepper on it. Then we're going to use the red chili sauce, the sweet Thai red chili sauce, whatever that is, right? Cook it, bones pull out, so it's all just rib meat. And then I'm going to put it on a naan bread because we had some of that yesterday. I don't even know what it is. It's a little bread. It's flat. I'm going to put it on there and I'm going to eat it like a small sandwich.
Oh,
That's as fusion as I can get right now.
for a moment there, I thought you were going down the McRib route. I was feeling this. I was waiting for you to go.
Did.
I'm going to put this on a sesame seed bun, and I'm going to call it Frank special. You were right there on the McRib.
I could have, I guess, couldn't I?
Hojo,
but I had to throw the naan bread at it.
That naan bread comes from India. I love garlic naan.
Fusion. I won.
Delicious. You win on that one. So Hojo has given us the correct number of ribs here. It's actually, he mentioned in one case that there's 14 in the full rack, but he says here, have I seen Kendrick Barbecue smoke the full 13 bone rack in some of his videos? That's a damn big hunk of meat. Hojo,
it is.
Hojo, here you go. It's going to be there Saturday. I'm cooking it up. I've got the full rack. It's already sitting, waiting to be handled. So, Frank, let me tell you right now, that's yet another thing you can check the box on the menu.
Is Hojo coming to cook?
We're going to need people to cook. There's so many different proteins, things that in some cases people will not have had the experience to cook yet in their life, or they've done it once or twice. There's going to be a lot of new things for people. I want everyone to come out, try out the Smoke Slinger, try out the Liberty 94, hands-on, feel it, touch it.
The most expensive Smoke Slinger meateup ever.
I would, at this point,
I know what my fridge is bringing.
Oh, you have this. What's coming on Saturday? What we have is a true meat haul. We went directly to the ranchers. We went to the farmers. We cut a deal. And we got sponsorship called My Checking Account, which was, that's the way to go. When you want to get sponsored, you use Cash Me Outside Bank. Cash Me Outside. How about that?
Outside. How about
Cash
that?
Me Outside. How about that?
Yeah, I saw where you're going.
Come on
there.
down. We there's going to be organ meat. There's going to be beef. There's pork. Let's see what else. There's chicken. There might be lamb. Could be goat. I don't know. There might be
Yeah.
not the ox, but just his tail. We went up, took that tail off, and just let the ox walk away.
Dang.
Dang, could be some Jamaican jerked goat,
Ostrich.
not go- or ox. Oh, ostrich. Ostrich
Jamaican
is
jerk
something.
ostrich.
We can do that.
No, it wouldn't be good.
Why not? Too tough.
It's like beef.
It's like
Jerk beef.
like a tougher poultry.
I don't think it's tough. Because them things, all they do is run.
That's it. But when
They
you
don't
run,
fly. They're like
all
big chickens.
all that running, any muscles that are used all the time, they're tough. That's why when you look like a leg of a cow, for example, it's never going to be as tender as as your tenderloins and your rib portions, even some of the chuck. Once we get to that hind meat, it gets tough. And I happen to have. I'm thinking about taking it. We've got, what did you call it? The Tom and Jerry steak.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this. It's on my mind about taking the Tom and Jerry steak with us.
See, it's all going to come back to a cartoon at some point.
I know.
Or it's not legit.
Yeah. It's coming.
Well, I brought in the Fred Flintstone, the rib cage that flipped over the car.
Yep.
You know, what other cartoon has meat in it? We
Right,
got Tom and Jerry.
There's how about Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd?
Do they have some kind of meat that they was eating?
I don't know. He's always going out there on a hunt.
Well, Tom and Jerry's always got the ham, the whole ham
right.
that somebody takes a bite out of the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a shank. That's what Hojo just said. Any shanks on the menu? That's the Tom and Jerry section of rear thigh, isn't
That's
it,
correct.
On a cow?
I know that shanks are on the menu for October.
Yeah, that's
we're
for
be
sure.
Doing, it's a German food called Schweinhacks, which is the pork shank. We're going to be taking that, roasting it, smoking it, then roasting it, hitting it with some real high heat so that the skin crisps up, and it's just delicious cracklings on the outside of that tender, gelatinous, juicy pork shank that we'll serve with sauerkraut and the red cabbage and some potatoes and some other things. But you have to stay tuned or meet us in Florida in October.
Or cash me outside.
You can cash me outside. How about that?
When did that come around? That was years and years and years ago. I remember Spearman said that on the radio a couple times with me. We were on the OG radio show.
There was a girl that was on the Dr. Phil show, and that was her thing. That she told Dr. Phil.
Oh, that's right.
How about that?
That's hilarious. I forgot all about that. Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, hey, what's your part here? You got closing thoughts there, Dave?
Well, Frank, we smoked through smokers, rubs, sauces, and the fusion frontier barbecues alive and evolving. And I was starving just to talk about it, and I'm even more hungry now.
Me too.
So if you love tonight's episode, subscribe, drop us a review, and tell your smoke-loving crew. We'll be back next time with more barbecue science, pit hacks, and maybe a pit master or two. Until then, keep the fires hot and the flavors bold.
Or keep your smoke thin and blue.
How about hot fires, blue smoke, bold flavors?
I like that. That's good.
Staying positive.
Cheers, everybody. Appreciate you. We'll see you Cherry Park in Canton, Texas.
This Saturday, March 8th. See you there.
Be there, be square.